Hi, Jeremy Cordeaux in the Court of Public Opinion. I'm just on air here to let you know that we'll be live streaming the Court of Public Opinion every Friday between 9 o'clock and 12 on jeremycordeaux.com. Please join us. We'd love to have you.
Welcome to Hong Kong Confidential. I'm Jules Hannaford and I'm your host. I'm an Australian woman and I've been living in Hong Kong for many years. I'm a mother, a teacher, an author, and I want to share my wisdom and the wisdom of others with you. Thanks for joining me and I hope you enjoy the show. Hi Confidants, I just want to tell you about a book that I've written called Fool Me Twice. It's my memoir and it's a story of how I was scammed and assaulted while online dating. It was a difficult book to write because I really had to overcome the shame of my choices. But I wanted to do it so that I could help other people not get caught in the same trap that I was. At the end of the book, there are a whole lot of suggestions of what people need to look out for and how they can date safely online. My book is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble online, and it's also in Hong Kong bookstores. Here is a promo for my book. I hope you enjoy it.
From life on a farm in rural Australia, where wide open spaces made a young woman yearn to know what was beyond her country town. She moved to the city, became a mother, and found her dream career which took her across the world. But still, something was missing. In her search for love, she traveled far, trusted deeply. She wanted so badly to find someone that she almost lost herself in the process, and learned some hard lessons along the way. Fool Me Twice, a new memoir by Jules Hannaford. Available on Amazon.
Today I'm here with Neelam Harjani. Hi Neelam, thanks for joining me today.
Hi Jules, I'm so excited to be here.
It's so exciting to have you here. You used to be an investment banker and then you did a complete 180 and did something completely different. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a full shift in terms of the direction I thought my life was taking, going from investment banking to teaching yoga. Honestly, it came from a very personal experience when I was a derivatives trader and I was on the trading floor working and just being surrounded by a lot of adrenaline and a lot of stress. And I realized that my resilience to stress wasn't as high. And so I just in my 20s got diagnosed with like chronic back pain. My digestion suffered. It was also really hard for me to switch off once I left the office, just dealing with really low quality of sleep or sometimes even insomnia. That's when my dependence to yoga really grew. And I saw it as my time on my mat as a place of almost resetting the stress levels and just coming back to a center and just feeling good about myself, both in body and mind. I would go back to the trading floor. Everyone was on the same page. Like they've got lower back pains, they're sitting on a stability ball or trying out a standing desk, really tight shoulders and neck, tempers flaring as well. And I would always suggest, hey guys, why didn't you come with me to my class? It's made such a difference. And I think it'll really help because we're all facing the same lifestyle here. And even though they could recognize that there was a clear benefit, they were men in their 40s and they would just roll their eyes at me saying, I am not going to be that goofball at the back of a yoga class trying to touch my toes when everyone else has like got their head to their knees. And even though it will help me, I just don't want to be subjected to that. And so I think it was really that realization that made me have the courage to take the leap, where I saw that there's a niche. People who could really benefit from yoga just didn't have a gateway to it. They were suffering and they didn't know how to healthily release that stress. And then it would just accumulate until it manifests in their body or their mood or their energy level. And so that's really the premise of yoga, where we try to give people who don't feel comfortable in a group class an access point to the benefits where it's much more personalized. Our team comes over and, takes it on a one-to-one basis. We're working more about what they'll get out of the class rather than ticking something on their to-do list for the week.
You started your company and it's called Inspire Yoga. Is it just for individuals or do you do classes as well?
Because the premise of the company is really based on creating a lifestyle change. Everything that we do is on site. We're actually trying to move away from the model of a studio to allow people that, they have their ownership to create their surrounding and make it a sanctuary of peace and relaxation or associated to stress or tension. We have a team of 30 teachers and they go over to people's homes on a one-to-one class, whether it's an individual, maybe like dealing with a knee injury or depression or something that they just need a bit more personal attention for. Or even what I've seen is like a lot of family classes where it's just nice to spend time with the parents and the kids. Kids are so flexible. And so everyone has like a moment to shine in a class, but in a way where it's still at home, it's still relaxed in front of the TV. You're not in front of a meal, but you're doing something where you're just creating a healthy environment and showing your kids that you can dedicate some time to wellness as well.
That's a really great idea. That's the niche you're talking about because really, usually everyone's got to go to a studio to participate in yoga.
Exactly. Or they'd have to maybe commit to a yearly pass and then have the whole family do the same thing. But then, of course, it takes away from the personalization or the intimacy of having it at home. Actually, recently, I think since last year, we've really started to focus on the corporate wellness arm of the business as well. And it's so funny because now I'm back at the banks, but instead of assessing risk of the trades, I'm there talking to them about stress levels and managing it in a way where they're just taking a more proactive approach to releasing that workplace pressure.
What would your corporate programs look like? Would that be in small groups or would that still be individual yoga classes, but within the workplace?
A lot of what we do is really bespoke. So I'm all about finding the need, finding the problem, and then creating a solution. And so even if it's tailor-making that solution, that's really what we're offering. So a lot of companies, what we've seen, will do a combination of workshops that, goes through the science, goes through the reasons in which it really helps, and then club that in with maybe like 3 or 4 practice sessions per workshop, and so then if they do a couple of rounds of that, that'll take them through the whole year of at least a touch point every couple of weeks of something to do with like tension release. So that the practice would still be in a group class, like in a group setting, but it would be in the boardroom. If you can add on the stress with your work shirt on, then you can also release it. Like, I think there's such a connotation of, okay, I need to wear like my lycra leggings and get into like on a mat in order to relax. But really, you can do yoga. It's a state of mind as well. It's just being able to shift where our attention is. And so a lot of that is based around breathing, based around meditation, focusing on the now, and then also working on like the ergonomics and posture. So if they are sitting for 12 hours a day, that the right muscles are engaged to support their structure for those hours.
That's a really good way of doing it by going through how it's going to help and what it actually adds to your life. So that would help get the buy-in from people, wouldn't it?
Especially in Hong Kong, we're all very intellectually driven. So we also need to know and be bought in with the explanations and the whys before we can commit to a practice. So this is a great segue in terms of creating an education, but pairing it with the experience. With some of our corporate clients, with like maybe the C-suite level, we'll do yoga clinics. So we'll have one-on-one, maybe like a teacher will be there for 6 hours and then they book one-on-one classes with them at the office.
What are some of the advantages of doing yoga that you teach your clients so that they're aware of the positive outcomes of it?
It can be a whole host of things from blood pressure. A huge part of it is really stress management because a lot of what we see is psychosomatic when it comes to stress-related illnesses. So if you want to have a spike in your productivity, if you're feeling like you're just fatigued all the time and you're dragging yourself into work, then there's an imbalance there, and addressing that imbalance is a wonder to both the mind in terms of finding a clarity. And then obviously the body, once it's more in sync with your natural resting biorhythms, starts to heal. There's the repair function. The parasympathetic nervous system is ignited. Right now, when we're stressed, like cortisol, adrenaline, they're just overriding any biorhythm, which means even if the body needs to repair, it needs to rest, we're not allowing it to because we're staying in that flight or fight mechanism. And that's the state of emergency. It's a state where we're in survival mode. But the thing is, now we've normalized it. It's normal to be stressed. It's part of life.
Do you think that that's really typical of Hong Kong, or do you think it's a global thing?
I think it's really accentuated in a place like Hong Kong because there is already a cultural, really strong work ethic. And so in that work ethic, there's an identity as well, where your identity is reflective of your achievements. So the more you do, the better you feel. But then it actually is very counterintuitive when it comes to a practice of self-love, where it's not about the doing, it's about the being.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. It's not about the doing, it's about the being. That's great.
Right now, relaxed, our body is working at an optimal. Even if, you've got an injury and you break your bone and you're in a cast, there's no transmutation of like bone or anything that's happening. It's basically your body is healing naturally. The cast is just there to set it. So that repair, that restorative energy is within all of us. But because of this fight or flight, because of the stress level, we're so disassociated with it because we're on this go, go, go. And I think especially in Hong Kong, where it's a very compact society and it's a very, convenient city. So you can actually pack in like 5 errands in a day and achieve them all. Whereas maybe in other more sprawled out cities, there's a bit of a leeway. There's the commute. There's a half an hour that you're sitting on the train and you're able to kind of decompress. Whereas here you can be, at the groceries in 5 minutes and then at the doctor's appointments in 10 minutes and then wrap up with a meeting on the way, it can happen. And so the lifestyle doesn't give us an opportunity to rest. It doesn't give us that time.
We not only need to rest bodies, but we need to rest our mind and our soul.
Absolutely.
Talk to me a bit about this mind-body connection and how much it's also intrinsic in overall health and well-being.
Oh, for sure. To be honest, Jules, when it comes to the mind-body connection, that really is the essence of yoga. I have this tinge now where I'll see people practicing yoga and it's almost akin to a pseudo acrobatics where it's really just, it stops at the body level. It stops because, I want to just get into this pose. And that's when I feel like I'm more advanced in my practice.
But they're not recognizing the breathing and the meditation and the connection with their mind and the healing.
It's an integration and it's a system, and I think sometimes maybe in the digital age, it's even more heightened because I want to get into this pose so I can take a picture so I can put it on Instagram and people would know I'm amazing at yoga. But actually, it's really, yoga is a journey inward. And that's really why Inspire came to be, because I felt like sometimes in a class, it's natural. We look outward. And so it becomes a competitive practice where people are kind of judging themselves. Whether you're feeling superior or inferior, you're always coming from a place of the ego. And so it doesn't help go back to the mind. I really find that the breath is the vehicle that connects body and mind. And so even in my personal practice, it's really come from asana, which is the postures, but I highly emphasized around the breathing, because only once your body is still can your attention be a bit more subtle. And then you start to notice, okay, am I breathing or am I gasping? Am I breathing into my chest, which is often, if you put your hand on your chest, that's where you'll feel most of the rhythm take place. But when it's the parasympathetic nervous system, when it's the relaxation response, you actually want to be breathing into your belly, which takes much more awareness, that slower, longer, deeper breath. And once you're able to kind of attune your awareness a little deeper, you can't be thinking of your meeting tomorrow. You can't be thinking about the deadline you missed yesterday. You have to be fully present. And that's really how you're using the body, you're using the physical rhythms of the body, but you're using it to access the mind, to come to a place of peace, of surrender to right now, and accept that everything that's happening right now, I'm okay. It's fine. I'm here. And I think that that's when the power of yoga really starts to play. When I see clients shift in that sense of, as I said, like going from doing to being. Because when you're breathing, you're just there. You're just sitting there in comfort. But in the doing right now feels uncomfortable because I only feel like I can relax or be comfortable when I get this ticked off my list. And so you come operating off a, if I do this, then I will be happy. So it's very linear. But the body, the mind, it's so holistic. It's so integral that right now I can choose. I can take that conscious choice. And if I say I'm okay, and if I allow myself to be comfortable, then my body can relax. The tension starts to dissipate. That's really the essence of yoga in terms of mind-body connection.
Do you think that this can lead to self-discovery? This whole process can lead to your own sort of better understanding of yourself and your body and what you need and where you're headed, and it can really sort of shift the priorities of your life?
100%. Absolutely. And that's the purpose. The purpose is growth, personal growth. It's not as much as getting that six pack or standing on your head. Those are all stepping stones. But if we get stuck on that stepping stone, we never get across the river, never get to see the vantage point. And that really is that personal growth where the self-discovery of, oh, if I can witness my body, then I must be more than that. And then when we do that with our breathing, when we do that with our inner rhythms, we start to notice our thought patterns. It's very close to just that sense of mindfulness. When I can witness my thoughts, then there must be a separation between me as the witness and the flow of thoughts that I'm choosing to entertain. So you no longer feel grappled by your thought patterns. You can create a distance. And in that distance, there's freedom. There's freedom to choose. Okay, is this thought helpful or is this thought harmful? Is this choice, whether it's what I'm eating, how I'm reacting, my response to my children, the pressure that I'm putting on myself of who I need to be, is this something that's harmful to me? Or can I come from a place of self-love, of acceptance, of balance? It need not be religious. It need not be a dogma. It's literally just coming to know yourself a little bit deeper and that you're more informed about your decisions. And so there's the coherence in your energy. You're coherent because my act, the doing, is correlated to how I'm feeling, which is correlated to how I'm thinking. All our thoughts have an emotional charge. And whether we like it or not, it physically manifests. I mean, think about watching a sad movie. You're not the protagonist. You're not in that movie, but yet a tear will roll down your face. And so you're identifying with the characters through your mind, but it is affecting your body physiologically. You are feeling sadness. It's just that awareness. And when we have that awareness in that process of meditation, in that process of stilling the mind, of reflecting, then we enter what I like to call thought hygiene. Am I going to choose something that's going to be harmful for me? Or am I going to choose something that's going to benefit me? And, I talk about this all the time in my corporate wellness workshops, because in this lifestyle, we're in this environment that's addicted to stress. And that's really powerful. Because think about it, they're working off adrenaline. So their body almost needs it, craves that rush of adrenaline. And if they're dipping, what do? We grab the first cup of coffee we'll get. We'll get that caffeine high. Or we'll have a sugar craving. We'll get a spike of energy somehow or the other. We want to elevate our energy levels to a point that's not a sustainable level.
Well, you crash afterwards, don't you?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then also see what happens to our thoughts when we're in that addiction. We might be out of the office, but we're replaying some office politic that happened again. We keep going into this mind cycle and then just multiplying the effects on our body. Or we'll watch a seriously violent or aggressive show on Netflix. Again, just surging because the body is looking for that adrenaline hit. And if it's not surrounded by it in a work environment, then it'll find it even through entertainment.
You're saying we can literally get addicted to stress and adrenaline.
Absolutely, yeah.
By doing yoga and meditation, we can learn to separate from that and to not have to rely on it to keep our energy levels up.
Absolutely. So basically, we're addicted to stress in this lifestyle because it's the adrenaline, it's the high cortisol levels because of stress that's in our bloodstream. But then this is our motor of doing. Only once we're feeling the rush will we get two and two together. And so we're now dependent on that stress level to kick us into gear. And then we normalize that gear, not knowing where the brakes are.
We're afraid that we can't be successful without it.
Or if we're slowing down, what does that say? Does that say
we're not achieving when we can actually achieve?
Or we're actually more productive when we're able to become. I mean, I'm really fascinated about quantum physics and brain science. And even when we are stressed, there's this fight or flight response in the brain. And immediately the neurotransmitters are directed to the amygdala, which is the fear center of the brain. So then you're not really operating, but you're actually moving away from the hippocampus, which is the decision-making center, into fear. And so that's what I feel so many people here are faced with. We're operating from a place that we oscillate between greed or fear. Think about what our motivations are. We're either running away from something that we don't want to happen, or we're hoarding so that whatever the last case scenario is, we think we have enough. But of course, is enough ever enough? And so greed or fear is the only emotion that we're oscillating in when we're coming from the amygdala, when we're coming from cortisol fueled behavior, which is all stress related. I mean, if we weren't addicted to stress, would we be in a place where the cholesterol levels are so high, where the hypertension is? I mean, I have so many clients who have a compromised immune system, who have IBS, who have their bodies are telling them, hey, slow down. This is not sustainable. But it's their mind, right? We're only choosing this response.
That's so interesting because so many people have these physical ailments, but they don't recognize that they're often linked to stress, anxiety, lifestyle, that if they just made those changes, they would often, not always, but often get healthier.
Surely. There was a client who came to me and she wanted to lose weight. And so she was like, Neelam, I'm really battling with my weight. I feel like I'm pretty disciplined. I'll work out, I'll go to the gym, and then something will happen. And then my diet goes off the charts and I'll just binge on junk food or dessert. I'm at this point where I really hate my body. And when I was listening to her, it was so clear to me that she was operating from shame. And when that's your dominant emotion, then even if you're on the right track, you're going to find a way to elicit that emotion that you feel comfortable in.
Or that's familiar to you.
Absolutely. And so then that's why the self-sabotage would start with the eating or the binging or the sugar, knowing full well that this is not a conscious choice. It's a self-sabotaging technique. And so when we started with her, even though she said, okay, I want to lose weight, we just very, very gentle, slow movements, but it was focused on mindful movements so that she could bring her mind to the present, to accept and feel that acceptance of her body and to allow herself to sculpt a different reaction to her body rather than one of shame, one of acceptance, one of love, one of nurturing.
Rather than sculpting a different body, she sculpted a different attitude to her body.
And then when you've got a place when you're coming from self-love, then do you want to be filling yourself with garbage? Do you want to be in a place where you're feeding yourself things that you know will not suit you. You're not then coming from a fad diet. You're not using willpower. You're changing your attitude of yourself so that it sculpts a more conscious choice for what you eat, for your lifestyle. Instead of pushing an adrenaline high and getting through that spin class, maybe resting is okay. You're coming from a place of comfort, of acceptance, and not burning out, which was so magical because she felt like she dropped 5 kilos in the first 2 weeks with so much ease. And it's funny because asana, which is yoga posture, in Sanskrit, it means easy pose. You're not supposed to assert at your will and contort yourself and push yourself to a point where you're uncomfortable. It has to come from a place of ease, of comfort. And when you're in that position where your attitude is shifted of yourself to something higher, something more positive, then it's so easy to be healthy because you want the best for yourself. You're not looking for instant gratification. It's a long run.
That brings about a complete lifestyle change.
Absolutely.
Which is ideal, isn't it? That's the way it should be done, because with fad diets or binging on exercise or whatever, when you stop or when it all comes back.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's it, right? When it comes to something holistic, it's got to be integrative and it's got to be nurturing so that it's sustainable. Our energy levels aren't sustainable at 100% every single day. If we don't give ourselves moments of rest, then we face burnout. I've seen so many at times, we'll have clients who'll come and literally in their executives in their late 30s, suffering panic attacks on a daily basis, just because they feel like they can't cope. They don't have an energy reservoir. It's all tapped out. Especially like 70% of our clients are male, which is very interesting, very telling because yoga in the studios are more feminine, but it's so clear that men in the city need an outlet to release their stress. What other options do they have? Go down to the bar, happy hour?
That's not helpful.
That's not sustainable. Or boxing or like high intensity workouts.
But that pumps your adrenaline.
So for them to just find privacy, find a space that they're comfortable in, they don't need to assert their ego or they don't need to feel like they have to be driven, and that it's okay to feel relaxed and to feel peaceful and not have that be a reflection on their achievements or how much money they made that day.
Have you got a story of a male who you've worked with, how you've seen yoga transform his life?
Yes. One of our first clients, actually, he came to us and he was in his 40s. He was a father of 2 little kids and also an investment banker, which meant he was traveling 4 days out of the week. And so because he was on the flights all the time and then in meetings and sitting down, it was just very difficult for him to find a place to keep up with activity or like some sort of a structure in his lifestyle. And so he came to us with a seizing back pain, shortness of breath, like he was always gasping for air. And he was told that he needed back surgery. There was so much compression in his L3 and L4 in his lower lumbar that there was no choice out of his lifestyle. He has to fly for work. And as a result, he needed to do the surgery. Almost on a last resort, he said, okay, I'm going to try whatever I can to heal naturally before I succumb to the surgery. And we worked with a lot of spinal alignments with him. But the biggest thing we work with is just his posture. Because when we're seated and when we're standing and we're rounded and there's this heightened kyphosis, there's this droop in your shoulders, a tightness in your chest, then if you round your back and you put your hand on your tummy, can you even breathe into your belly? You're creating a restriction just by your physical form. So before I could do anything, I have to work with his skeletal structure so that there's space to expand into. Otherwise, that tightness of breath is only going to create more tension around his shoulders. It's only going to add more pressure on his lower back. And so what we did was we worked a lot with core and abdominal strengthening poses so that there is more balance. A big part of yoga for us is balance. So there's balance in the front of the body and the back of the body. If your core isn't active, then that means all the weight is borne at the spine. So now helping the spine, we took that pressure off by engaging the core strength a bit. Then we open the chest a little bit so that there's more extension in his back so that he could breathe into his rib cage at least. And what a difference that made, because the moment he could breathe a bit deeper, immediately he felt an ownership to his stress levels, because he would notice, okay, I'm gasping. Let me just 10 belly breaths. Let me reset. And he was obviously at a point where he knew it was all or nothing. He needed to be dedicated to this, because if he wasn't, there was a surgery looming. And he was fully aware and dedicated. And so he was very aware of how he was breathing as a signal of how his mental stress was. And so when he was able to breathe deeper, when he was able to feel like his back was more open, 2 months later, the doctor said, oh, the compression is much, much better. Just keep doing what you're doing and you're fine.
Isn't that amazing?
The thing is also, I want to stress that it's about consistency. So that's why we come over, because we want to empower your lifestyle so that you know how it should feel in your body. What is the intensity you're seeking? Because obviously, if you go too far, it's going to cause more back compression.
You're really tailoring it for your clients and what they need.
Absolutely.
What sort of lifestyle changes, apart from doing yoga and meditation, what other lifestyle changes would you recommend to your clients typically?
I would recommend, obviously, choosing the right foods is very important, because the diets that we have in front of us, a lot of them are very high in sugar, which is an inflammatory food. And so if there's any pain, it's going to be magnified if you're eating something that's inflammatory, because it's going to inflame the joint. It's going to create more pain at the site. I would say watch your sugar intake. Another thing I would say is consciously allow yourself time to decompress. So consciously, if you want to sleep by, say, 10:30, then by 8:30, put your phone away. Don't feel like your to-do list is running all day long, or that you stay in front of the TV or in front of a screen glued and highly stimulated, because you're then overriding that response of relaxation. You're more addicted in that stress loop. And so I would just say digital detox is something that I'm really, really a big advocate for, because what's coming through our mind, it's our thoughts. What's coming through our thoughts going to have an emotional impact on us. That's going to affect our adrenal glands, our hormones, our neurotransmitters, which will, of course, affect how we feel, our health at the end of the day. So if we can go right up, instead of being receivers from the environment, to actually switch off from the overstimulus, then we're actually able to create more of a restorative approach to the body.
I think with this overstimulating environment and digital detox, I think could really benefit bunches of teenagers and adults as well.
Absolutely.
But I think that mental health issues really do appear to be on the rise. Anxiety and depression, I think it's linked to everything we've talked about, all the stress, the pressure, the greed, the fear, the digital connection, all of that. Do you think that yoga can really help with anxiety and depression and mental health issues as well?
Absolutely. If you just think about what is anxiety, it's an incessant rumination. It's a nonstop flow of thoughts in your mind that you feel powerless by. So what yoga does is we're using the body to give you techniques to realize your own control, to realize that actually, yes, there are ways, there are tools to have power over this mental rumination. When we can create that gap, even if it's being so aware of your inhalations and your exhalations, then immediately you stop thinking, you stop worrying, you stop regretting.
Because your focus is moved.
Because your focus is on the present. It's on the now. We're usually anxious about something future-based, or we're stuck in a place of regret and worry from what's happened in the past. But both of them were oscillating in a temporal kind of setting that we have no control over. We cannot go and forward into the future or rewind into the past. And so by just staying in the present, we actually connect with our control, because yes, we do have control. What's happening right now, what thought we're entertaining, how we're feeling, and what that emotional reaction is as well. When it comes to depression, I will weave in an intention with the practice. So whether it's the mindful movements, whether it's the breath awareness, whether it's the meditation, but I will weave in an intention of peace. Because when we're feeling depressed, we're feeling a disconnect. We are so uncomfortable with the here and the now. So connecting to a sense of peace. With anxiety, especially if it's an anxiety of, an outward reward, whether it's an executive, like a bonus that's coming up, or, we've got a lot of teen classes too with the exam results coming up and things like that. Then it's focusing on weaving that intention of abundance, of knowing that we are so capable. And rather than focusing our self-worth on our achievements, focus on our capabilities. Bring it home to where it starts from, the root, that sense of power within. And that will be what manifests outward.
Oh, that's beautiful. Do you do coaching in your programs as well?
There is an element of coaching. The coaching usually happens from like a wellness perspective.
It's all intrinsically linked.
It's very integrative. Yeah. So we'll do a coaching because you have to be comfortable on so many levels, right? You have to be comfortable on a mental level. You have to be comfortable on a physical level. Also, you have to be comfortable with your choices, your lifestyle choices, your choices of response, especially emotional responses.
It's interesting that you use the word choice because the fact is we do have a choice how we respond and react. People don't really recognize that all the time, that they can choose how to respond and react to what's going on around them.
And the key here is just pause. If you have a trigger, just give it 3, 4, 5 breaths. Give it some time so that it isn't a linear cause and reaction, but you're seeing a trigger.
You're breaking it up.
Then you have a space. You feel spacious to choose, to find your choice and then assert it. But we feel like we need to have this instantaneous reaction. And usually that's when that impulse that we then regret. Yeah. We then say, oh, I wish I bit my tongue. Yeah, I held myself back a little bit.
And then you get anxious.
Exactly. And it's
a vicious cycle. Right? Yeah, exactly. You do nutrition programs for your clients. Like, do you sort of guide them in what to eat?
Yeah. Yoga is like that connection between body and mind. And it's very interpersonal. I follow a lot of recommendations from Ayurveda as well. And that's like the life science that supports yoga. And so Ayurveda, just like yoga, is based for individual needs. We'll have clients who'll come and they will be like, I am so bored in a yoga class. It is so slow. They feel restless because they're so used to going 100 miles an hour that when we ask them to wait, you're almost creating a discomfort in that waiting. And so when we entrain the mind to at least, okay, you're not just staring into space, but you're having something to focus on. You're focusing on your breathing, or I'll put them straight into a balancing pose. If your mind is wandering, it will show up in your body and you will fall over because you can't be standing on one leg, not fully present.
Oh, that's why I can't balance.
So it's very much a reflection. And yoga philosophy says your inner environment is a reflection on your outer environment. If you're calm within, you'll attract calmness outside. But if there's a frenetic kind of frenzy within, that's what you're seeking. That's what your driver is. And so what we do is we try to backward induce. When it comes to Ayurveda, it's exactly the same. It's so personalized. I'll have clients be like, I've eaten kale breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I'm still not dropping any weight, or I still don't feel the energy that I was promised after having this super food loaded diet. And it's really not about that. It's about what your kind of constitution is. In Ayurveda, there are 3 doshas, which are like constitutions.
I've done an Ayurvedic test before.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, very interesting.
It's so geared to you, to your body and what it needs now. There might be an imbalance of air. Actually, when we're more vata imbalanced, then salads or light food is not actually what we need. We need more grounding because the earth element is so transient. It's so fast. And that's something I see in Hong Kong for sure. If you think about it, like we're walking really quickly, we're talking really quickly, we're thinking really quickly, we're acting really quickly. And then we expect a really fast response time too. That impatience.
You are describing me. People joke about me doing everything too quickly, and I do expect a fast response from other people as well.
Yeah.
And I get frustrated when I don't get it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Does that mean I'm Vata? I think that's the one I was. What are the other two?
That is the fire.
Yeah.
And Kapha is earth.
Yeah, no, I was Vata. That was
and
me.
I would say about 90% of Hong Kong is Vata.
Yeah.
Because if you think about Vata, it's the principle of air, right? In Hong Kong, where do we live? We live in the sky. We live in skyscrapers. Where do we work? We work in the sky. We work in high-rise buildings. And so even our sense of connection to the earth is so far removed. I love just going into nature and finding that electromagnetic rays of the earth element because it's so scarce in a place like Hong Kong. And that's what will help ground us. And so even in terms of, you spoke about nutrition. So in terms of what we're eating more kapha or earth heavy foods, which are root vegetables, which are sweet potato, pumpkin, even some chestnuts. They're just warming, heavier foods. But we think, oh, okay, I'm healthy if I'm just scarfing down a salad all the time. But actually, you need to know what your balance is and how you remediate it. And so even in yoga practice, each yoga posture is akin to one of the chakras. The base chakras are grounding chakras. That's actually when you're standing or doing like standing poses and connecting to the earth. Like I'll have clients and for maybe 4 lessons, we will only focus on how to use their feet, how to actually stand on their feet. Because if we don't know how to create that support with the earth, then that's our foundation. Our ankles, our knees, our hips, our back, that's all based on where our foundation is. I've seen so much of that grounding work be extremely beneficial because our feet are also our first shock absorbers. When we're able to stand and feel comfortable rather than being in our shoes all day and have these muscles desensitized, using them, which is why you do yoga barefoot.
That makes so much sense. If I was your client, how would you assess me and then what I need?
I meet all of my clients. So we are able to sit down like a consultation. So I really understand what you're looking for. So first I would just basically ask about your pain points. And then I would listen. I would listen to your language as well. Like the client who just said, oh, I hate my body, and then picking up that underlying emotion of shame there. So also allowing you to talk to me about how you're feeling, about your relationship with yourself. And then I would, assess your posture. I would assess your breathing. So we would do a little bit of some breathing techniques so that you just start to be aware. Where do I breathe from? Is there another center that I could tap into that's a bit more sustainable, that'll give me more energy, or that'll just feel a bit more comfortable? Once I kind of ascertain what you're looking for, then I will curate your program specifically for yourself. If you've got any chronic tension, if you've got any health conditions we should know about, any anxiety, stress levels, sleep quality, anything that, are maybe some of your objectives or your aspirations that we could weave into the classes.
See, this is what you don't get when you just go to a regular yoga class. You don't get any of this.
Exactly. Which is why we're really trying to be a bit more bespoke in our approach. So I'll curate the program with a teacher from my team who will be hosting your classes. So she'll be an expert in the needs that you're looking for. If I have clients who want, maybe more meditation, I'll connect with a teacher who's got a background in meditation, who hosts meditation classes only. And that way, you know that you're in expert hands. And I always tell my team, you are the eyes and the ears of the class, because sometimes you don't know what you need. But when a trained observer can see you, then they can start to give you those variations, those adjustments, those alignments that will really make a huge difference to your class. Like we had a client who'd been practicing for 10 years. And after class 1, she's like, I didn't realize, but I've been doing Cobra wrong my whole life because I've never realized where to push from, where to open from. I would just try to follow the person next to me and fit that mold. But actually, what we do is we distill the pose to what its benefit is. So if the benefit is to open your chest, we'll open your chest in a way that's soothing to you, but in a way that doesn't cause a compensation. Because sometimes we try too hard And instead of having our chest open, we've tweaked our shoulders instead, just to keep up with the class. This way, we really are able to give you that full attention. So you know what the pose should feel like. And then we'll give you homework and we'll say, now it needs to be a lifestyle change. Before you go to bed, 5 minutes a day, this is what you want to do.
And that's manageable.
Absolutely. Yeah. It then also gives you ownership to your health, which I think is so important. Instead of being dependent on a sequence of poses or a class schedule, you are then empowered to be aware. Oh, my chest feels tight.
This is what my daughter tells me about food. She's like, cook your own food. Don't let the helper cook the food. Do it yourself and take ownership of it. And then it will be far more meaningful and nutritious, and you will get healthier.
Absolutely. And that's a principle from Ayurveda as well, where what is invested in the food is not only the kind of macronutrients or micronutrients, it's the energetic component. If you're cooking for yourself, for your wellness, for your well-being, then when you ingest it, that's the energy you're receiving. When a meal is prepared so that it can be sold, so that it's a means of money, then
that's the energy you're ingesting.
You're ingesting a consumerist energy.
That's so true. Oh my gosh, you're inspiring me in so many different ways. As an entrepreneur and a mother of 2 young children, what does yoga bring to your personal life?
Yoga has been a pillar of strength to me. I don't think I would be on this journey if I didn't have this passion and this purpose that would fuel me to keep going, because as an entrepreneur, your brand is a reflection of you. And sometimes you don't really want to be that mirror image, and you're having to confront that. Yoga's really helped me to accept, to not be the judgmental inner critic when you're looking in front of the mirror or when you're trying to go out and spread your message. It's really shown me if there's a purpose and there's a passion, then success will follow. And I feel like that is really something that I've fallen back on so many times. On a personal journey, I did the same thing. I started in a studio class. I would go as a child as a hobby. And then when I was in college and I was battling the stresses of exams and I was studying economics, I'm also highly analytical as well. And so getting out of my mind was so important. And that was my channel. When I would roll out my yoga mat before I would sit down to study, I would feel like I could let go of the nerves. I could let go of that anxiety. And when I'm sitting with clarity. I'm sitting to absorb. And then, of course, now as a mom, it's the most rewarding, but also the most challenging journey as well. I will make sure that I'm up at 5:30, have my practice so that before the kids are awake, I fill my bucket. So that when I feel connected to my center, to my balance, and I feel like I'm operating from a place of self-love, then I'm going to be more patient as a mother. I'm going to be more driven as an entrepreneur. I'm going to be more understanding as a wife. It has come from a place of finding that time and investing in kind of this journey that's really led me to be able to kind of fulfill the roles and also switch hats so quickly, because you have to be so resilient as well.
Yes, you do.
I would find that sometimes with so many things juggling at the same time, if I'm not balanced, then it's very hard for me to kind of be there. And then also in terms of my own practice, I have set up this 5-system approach where I'm first moving to almost release the pent up energy. Because if I'm agitated, I am so far from finding a clarity or finding a place of focus. So first what I do is I just move in a dynamic sequence, and then I move where I'm mindful. So I synchronize breath to each of my movements. First, I do it quickly in the dynamic stage, and then I do it more energetically in static poses. That gives me an awareness of, yes, I can breathe into my fingertips. I can breathe into my little toes. And it gives me this sense of energy that's all encompassing, because sometimes we don't even notice our body until it's in pain. We're so stuck in our heads. And then using the breathing techniques, I'll sit down for a meditation where I can surrender, where I can let go, And it's not about the achievements. It's not about the doership, but it's really about the being. Starting my day in a place of peace and gratitude really just elevates my energy, gives me that resilience as well, so I can kind of face whatever the day brings me.
Sounds like an amazing way to start the day.
Yeah.
It really does.
I can 100% notice the change when I don't do it. Because to be honest, I'm not really a morning person. But if I don't wake up and have my practice, the whole day kind of
gets discombobulated. Isn't that interesting? Yeah.
And so I know, okay, I need to do this for me. And I will then enjoy what the next phase of the day is as well.
What would you like the listeners out there to know about Inspire Yoga?
Inspire Yoga is really for the personal growth. The body, mind, and spirit can really come together. We're really trying to take a holistic approach so that we inspire a healthy lifestyle. This is so important to me, whether it's professionals, whether it's prenatal yoga, whether it's a family class or kids class. It's really about just going back to the individual. Because would I take a prescription that's not made for me? Would I take a generic drug that isn't made for what I'm currently going through? Of course not. This is exactly it. We are helping to formulate your prescription. We are helping to formulate a coping mechanism, a mechanism to really integrate mind, breath, body, so that you are heightened on all levels and you really get the best benefit from yoga. But more than that, the most out of life. You feel like you have more energy. You feel like you are more connected to yourself. And when you're more connected to yourself, then you can relate to others. You're not focused on that need of survival. You can share, you can connect. You're in that place of oneness.
Yes, you're ultimately going to become happier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and more content.
Completely. And I've seen it so many times, even when it comes to children or lifestyle choices. It's so epigenetic. If we as parents are putting this pressure on ourselves, we're putting the stress levels on ourselves, and we're normalizing it, what are we as role models telling our kids to do?
They're going to copy.
Yeah.
They're going to feel that it's normal. It becomes normalized.
That it's okay to beat yourself to the limit for somebody else's sake. So when we are able to make these changes of conscious choices, then our own body starts to notice, even in terms of like quantum physics, in terms of gene expression, how our frequency is so much higher on a positive energy. And that's, of course, kids pick up on that. Of course, people around you pick up on that. And that's when you can really elevate the lifestyle of others as the change, as the vehicle of change in your surroundings.
Neelam, if my listeners out there want to get in touch with you to find out more about Inspire Yoga, how can they do that?
Best thing is to just check out our website, www.inspire-yoga.com. There you'll see all the private yoga programs that we have, beginners yoga, yoga therapy, restorative yoga, family classes, and then of course like corporate wellness offerings that we have too. And then there's a bright red button on the top right-hand corner. Hit book a free consultation. And I'd be happy to meet any of your listeners out there because we're really all about creating a change together so that it's more sustainable for the lifestyle that we lead.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for meeting with me today, Neelam. It's been absolutely wonderful and fascinating. And I'm going to book my free consultation for sure.
I'm so happy to be
sounds
here.
Amazing.
Thank you for letting me share my message.
For my listeners out there, if you enjoyed this podcast and you know somebody who might benefit from Inspire Yoga or just really enjoying hearing about how they can change their life in just a few easy steps, really, please share this podcast with them. And if you could rate and review us on iTunes, that'd be amazing because it will help me go up the iTunes charts and help more people find Inspire Yoga with Neelam as well.
There's a free ebook on there too for all your listeners.
Oh,
so
great.
All that you have to do is put in your email address and you'll be sent the free ebook. And it's got our 5-step model of how you can create a practice for yourself. And it's called Secrets to Live Stress-Free.
Oh,
really
brilliant.
Taking away that chronic tension cycle that we live in.
Oh, great. I'll put a link to your website in the show notes as well, which will be handy for people to be able to find you. Do you do overseas or do you do like Skype clients as well?
We do. So we do have the consultation will either be over the phone or on Skype. And then we can curate a yoga program. And then They're just like checkpoints that we'll have to do because obviously
you can't be there.
What we're doing here in Hong Kong is much more on-site and hands-on. We've also got a couple of really exciting retreats lined up for this year. So stay tuned because
Great.
I really think if you are in an environment of immersion, then that's when personal growth can really take place.
Fast track that personal growth.
Absolutely.
Neelam, thank you so much. That was absolutely inspiring. Funny about that. What a pun. Okay, have a great day. Thanks a lot. Bye. Hong Kong Confidential is brought to you by Teresa's Turkish Towels. Teresa imports the finest 100% Turkish cotton towels that dry very quickly, making them perfect for Hong Kong's humid climate. Say goodbye to the traditional smelly and stinky towels and try the colourful and fresh selections available online or in Teresa's Wan Chai store. Use the promo code CONFIDENTIAL online or mention this podcast when you visit in person to receive $100 off your entire order when you order 2 or more towels. With 100% satisfaction guaranteed or your money back, the only thing you've got to lose are the musty smells that permeate traditional terry towels. Visit www.hkturkish.com in order to get the address and directions to Teresa's semi-hidden location. So that brings us to the end of another Hong Kong Confidential podcast. I'm Jules Hannaford. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you'll be with me again next week. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please can you go to iTunes to rate and review it. I would really appreciate your feedback. You can email me at jules@hongkongconfidential.net, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Hong Kong Confidential. If you'd like to hit me up on Twitter, it's at Jules Hannaford. I would love to hear from you.
Hi, Jeremy Cordeaux in the Court of Public Opinion. I'm just on air here to let you know that we'll be live streaming the Court of Public Opinion every Friday between 9 o'clock and 12 on jeremycordeaux.com. Please join us. We'd love to have you.